about 5 centuries later, however, when the ark was transferred from the tent that David had erected for it to the temple that Solomon had built, the golden jar was missing. 2 Sa 6. 17. 1 Chi 8. 9. 2 Ch 5. 10. It had served its purpose. Symbolic use. Although the manna was a divine provision in E9. 20. It did not sustain the lives of the Israelites forever. Christ Jesus made a point of this, and then he added, I am the living bread that came down from heaven. If anyone eats of this bread he will live forever. And, for a fact, the bread that I shall give is my flesh in behalf of the life of the world. Joe 6. 30-33, 48-51, 58. Christ's faithful followers avail themselves of this heavenly manna, or bread of life. They do so in a figurative manner by exercising faith in the redeeming power of Jesus' flesh and blood laid down in sacrifice. Their doing so opens up to them the prospect of living forever, whether in the heavens with Christ or in the earthly paradise. Christ also used a jar of manna symbolically when he assured his Spirit-anointed followers that those who proved to be conquerors would receive the hidden manna, an imperishable food supply, or that which results from such a supply, in their case, immortality and incorruptibility in heaven. Re 2. 17. 1 Co 15. 53. Manoah Marmiddle. Noah. Hudonite man of the Shephelah town of Zorah. Judges 15. 33. And the father of Judge Samson. Manoah was a devout worshipper of Jehovah. One day an angel appeared to Manoah's barren wife, announcing that she would give birth to a son who would be a Nazirite of God. Upon being informed of this, Manoah supplicated Jehovah, asking him to send the messenger again in order to instruct them on raising the child. Jehovah answered the prayer and sent the angel a second time. When Manoah offered to set a meal before the messenger, he was told to render up a burnt offering to Jehovah instead, which he did. It was after this messenger ascended in the flame rising from the altar that Manoah recognized him as being Jehovah's angel. Because of having had this experience, Manoah feared that he and his wife would die. But she allayed his fear, saying, If Jehovah had been delighted only to put us to death, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and grain offering from our hand, and he would not have shown us all these things, and he would not as now have let us hear anything like this. JG 13. 2-23. Years later, Manoah and his wife, not knowing that it was from Jehovah, objected to Samson's desire to marry a Philistine woman of Timnah. JG 14. 1-4. Compared to 7. 3, 4. Subsequently Manoah and his wife accompanied Samson to Timnah, although not going with him as far as the home of the Philistine woman. Therefore they did not witness Samson's killing a young lion with his bare hands. On another occasion Samson, intending to take the Philistine woman to his home, again went with his parents to Timnah. He turned aside to inspect the corpse of the lion that he had slain earlier and found a swarm of bees and honey inside. Upon rejoining his parents, he offered them some of the honey that he had scraped out of the lion's corpse, and they ate it. Thereafter the family apparently continued on their way, and doubtless both parents were present at the banquet arranged by Samson at Timnah. JG 14. 5-10. Manoah preceded his son in death, for Samson was buried o textoi acute miritra longo, man of lawlessness 311. Conclusion of the system of things, when they would be identified and burned up. Paul warned the Christian overseers of Ephesus that after his going away oppressive wolves would enter in among true Christians and would not treat the flock with tenderness, but would try to draw away the disciples after themselves, not just making disciples for themselves but trying to draw away the disciples, Christ's disciples. Act 20. 29, 30. He wrote, at 1 Timothy 4. 1-3. However, the inspired utterance says definitely that in later periods of time some will fall away from the faith, paying attention to misleading inspired utterances and teachings of demons, by the hypocrisy of men who speak lies, marked in their consciences with a branding eye and feelingless, seared, so that they do not feel any twinges of conscience, because of hypocritically speaking lies. Forbidding to marry, commanding to abstain from foods which God created to be partaken of with thanksgiving. Paul later wrote to Timothy that there will be a period of time when they will not put up with the healthful teaching, but, in accord with their own desires, they will accumulate teachers for themselves to have their ears tickled, and they will turn their ears away from the truth. 2t4. 3:4. The Apostle Peter drew a parallel between the apostasy from Christianity and that which occurred in the natural house of Israel. He said, "However, there also came to be false prophets among the people, as there will also be false teachers among you. These very ones will quietly bring in destructive sects and will disown even the owner that bought them, bringing speedy destruction upon themselves. Furthermore, many will follow their acts of loose conduct, and on account of these the way of the truth will be spoken of abusively." Peter goes on to point out that these would exploit the congregation, but that the destruction of them is not slumbering. 2 Pe 1-3. A composite man. The man of 2 Thessalonians 2. 1-12 is, therefore, not an individual, but a composite man, a collective group, as the foregoing scriptures show, and this man was to continue after the apostles'